people, how's it going? Welcome to another video. Welcome to another episode of Albums Ranked. Today we are doing the massive Italian symphonic tech death metal band FLESHGOD Apocalypse. I've been meaning, well, ever since the release of their brand new album, Opera, I was like, do you know what? I need to get back into these guys. I remember discovering them most likely through everyone else's way of discovering them through the massive song, The Violation, off the Agony album. And I remember jamming that album way back then, and I thought, God, this is heavy. Which is funny, because at the time, I didn't really like death metal or anything that sounded like that. So for me to be like, that is actually good, I was like, okay, it's a bit of a left field. But then, you know, I left it behind. I went on the power metal train. But yeah, with the release of their new album Opera, I was like, you know what? They've only got 6 albums. It can't be that hard to listen to. And I'm much more of an appreciative death metal fan these days than I was back then. So I thought, let's go through their entire 6-album discography and figure out which is the least favorite all the way up to the favorite. It's been a fun ride, I won't lie. I've enjoyed most of it, except the last one, obviously. Well, I would say I didn't enjoy it, but it's just, you know, I was like, cool, don't need to hear that one again. But before we talk about that, let's just quickly say that, are you a fan of FLESHGOD Apocalypse? If you are, please comment down below and let me know what your favorite Apocalypse album is. Is it the first album? Is it Opera? Is it Agony? Let's just get a conversation going. But if you're gonna do that, you might as well then go to the effort to hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel out, it helps me out, it helps us all get bigger and better and become much more awesome people. Am I right? So yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that? You don't have to. I'm not forcing you. Just reminding you that there's that little button right there. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's get straight into it with the FLESHGOD Apocalypse ramping, starting all the way down the bottom at number 6. And for the record, no, I will not be including their little Mafia EP because it's an EP. You know, I don't normally include EPs in rankings. I've done it before, but not this one. Today, starting in at number 6, unfortunately, is the debut, Oracles. Yeah, I don't normally chuck debuts at the bottom because I'm a massive fan of debuts. I always find something good out of all of them because they're humble beginnings. It's any band at their purest. It's what they want to do, kind of thing. Even if production can be a bit rough, sometimes there's always some hidden gems on the debut. And that may be true for FLESHGOD's debut, but there are hidden gems. But compared to what FLESHGOD grew to be, what FLESHGOD grew to be, this one is definitely down the bottom. Because before they became a symphonic death metal band, they were just straight a technical death metal band. So there's no massive overdubs of, like, you know, orchestrations and no grand pianos and anything like that. So it is just a straight death metal album, and that's probably why it is at the bottom, because, you know, we listen to FLESHGOD for symphonic death metal, at least I do. So yeah, this one goes at the bottom for me. It's not to say it's a bad album. It's a very quick album. It's 37 minutes, so it's pretty standard album length, which is nice if you're listening to an album that you don't really enjoy. It's fine. It's very go. You know, all the songs pretty much blend together. Unfortunately, being a technical death metal band, it's just you know, the whole time. But the musicianship on it is amazing. Don't get me wrong. I do remember the opening track. Most opening tracks of these albums are all pretty amazing. But yeah, it was a fun listen. Don't get me wrong. I just got a lot more kick out of whatever comes next. So yeah, number 6 for me down the bottom is the debut, Oracles. Coming in at number 5 is Labyrinth. This album came out on August 16, 2013, so it's over 10 years old now, and we've gotten into the symphony at this point. You know, this is album 3, I think. So yeah, they've established who they are. This is what they do. This is what they sound like. So that's cool. The reason that this comes down, you know, close to the bottom is just because probably I just had a lot more fun with the ones that we don't talk about. You know, I love the idea of this album though. Don't get me wrong. The concept of Labyrinth is based upon the Labyrinth of Knossos, Knossos, and the characters related to the associated myth. Must be an Italian thing, because I don't know what that is. Guitarist and vocalist Tommaso Riccardi said, "We focused on the philological aspect in order to represent all the elements of the classic world, and through a manic and meticulous research, we managed to create a metaphor with our times, as the maze can be associated with the endless search for what we really are." So that's quite deep. That's something that Nightwish would probably come out with. But yeah, so Kingborn is a fantastic song, as is Minotaur. They're great. And so is Elegy. And I remember Pathfinder being awesome as well. Prologue is a minute long, and it's just this little orchestral piece. So nice. Under Black Sails, when I saw that title, I was like, oh, me, pirates, you know? And while it sounds nothing like a pirate song, it's very metal. So yeah, don't get me wrong, I would listen to Labyrinth. I would listen to Labyrinth again, but I would much rather listen to the rest first. But yeah, it's a great album. Go listen to it. Number 5, Labyrinth. Coming in at number 4 is Veleno, however you want to say that. Probably an Italian word. Don't know what it means. This album, I remember when this album came out. This one came out. When did this one drop? This one came out on, where is it? Someone tell me. This one came out in 2019. Yeah, so I do remember when this one came out, and I was like, oh yeah. After hearing, it was like my reminder, I think, that the band existed, because I found the song Sugar, and I was like, oh, okay, what's this? First of all, it was a lot easier to understand. So I was like, oh, okay. I think by this point, the lineup had changed as well. FLESHGOD have had a few lineup changes over the years, so it's you know, people are chopping and changing. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the vocalist changed for this album. And I thought, oh yeah, this one still sounded good. You know, with the whole Sugar was like push, push. At first I was like, that sounds a bit dumb. And then the more I listened to it, I was like, okay, no, this is actually pretty metal. It's a song about addiction, I'm pretty sure, to push through it and, you know, get over that barrier. The video for that song was cool as well. If I remember rightly, they're in a sewer, I'm pretty sure, with everything set up. That looked pretty murky, and I won't lie, it actually looked pretty metal. That was so cool. Fury is a great song. Carnivorous Lamb. The second song, that was awesome as well. But Mona Lisa, I think, is probably the best song in this album. It was goddamn good. The way it's slightly slower and just a bit more dunk, dunk, dunk. I was just like, oh, it's evil and it's scary, and it's just, honestly, it's so cool. The orchestrations on this one, the piano is really, really nice. Honestly, they've obviously honed in their sound by this point, but yeah, honestly, it's such a cool album. Worship and Forget, great song. Embrace the Oblivion, honestly, such good stuff. If you were like me at the start and you hadn't gone past Agony, please do go listen to these like later half albums. They're genuinely so amazing. It kind of makes us metalheads sit back and appreciate classical music. You know, if you listen to FLESHGOD without the FLESHGOD, just the orchestrations, you hear some beautiful stuff orchestrated by the band. It's absolutely disgusting. It's amazing. But yeah, Veleno is a great album. Interesting album cover as well. It looks like some sort of circusy thing gone wrong, but yeah, honestly, it's so good. The Praying Mantis' strategy is a cool little interlude thing. That's so fun. But yeah, number 4 for me is Veleno. Number 3 is the album I thought was going to be number 1. Number 3 is Agony. Yeah, I'm quite shocked that Agony isn't number 1, because it's the one that I'm most familiar with, and it's sometimes, you know what it's like, it's hard to put other albums over nostalgia. However, this one was not the case. This album, from start to finish, is just awesome. Like, this is, in a way, the reason we listen to FLESHGOD is because of an album that sounds like this. It's go, 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 go the whole time. Obviously, this album has the Violation on it, which is just insane. Every song on this album it starts with the, as opposed to, you've got the opening track and the last track, the title track, starting with Temptation, and then every song in the middle starts with the, and then it ends with Agony. Honestly, it's so cool. The Hypocrisy, fantastic opener, because the opening song Temptation is just an interlude, right? The Imposition, the Deceit, the Violation. What I didn't realize, well, I mean, I did realize, but in the video to the Violation, it starts with the intro, and then the Deceit, that's how the song The Deceit ends. So the Violation intro isn't actually part of the track. But I was like, good God, it's so cool, because you hear it, it's just like, god damn. I remember hearing that at the age of 15 and just being like, whoa. But no, honestly, Hypocrisy is great. But what makes this album like damn good is obviously the Violation, but like the Forsaking, holy damn, that song in itself is just outrageous. It's everything good about FLESHGOD. I think it's slightly slower than the rest of them, but this one, I think that's why I like it so much, because it's just a bit more, I don't know, there's just something about it. But yeah, the hypocrisy is great. The egoism is fantastic. Agony, the ending track, is just cool as well. Honestly, it's a fantastic album, and if you haven't heard FLESHGOD Apocalypse at all, I would highly recommend you start with this one, because it's the one that kind of made everybody go, whoa, what's this? You know, the Violation came out and was just, good lord, the video was scary. They look like dead zombies, but they're dressed up like classical composers. You know, fantastic stuff, honestly. Number 3, Agony. This is amazing. Number 2 is Opera, the brand new album released literally like 2 months ago, August 23rd, 2024. This is what inspired me to listen to the whole album the whole catalog, because I listened to this and I was like, wow, this is really good. Let's see if the rest of it is just as amazing as I remember. And Opera is perfection almost, you know what I mean? Like, it's definitely made it into the top 10 albums of 2024, I'll give you that. Because this one, I think the lineup has changed slightly. I'm not too sure if the singer is different, but still, there's changes throughout the whole thing. Why this album is so high is because, like I say, I've stated it before, I don't hide away from the fact that death metal, I've said it before, is not my genre. Do you know what I mean? It's not what I seek out to find. So I think to listen to 6 FLESHGOD technical death metal albums where they all sound like da-da-da-da-da-da is very, not tedious, but it can be a bit samey. However, with Opera, they slow down a bit. There's interludes. There's just certain songs that don't sound like the previous song. So it was just like, cool, I can actually look at song titles and know how they go. Like, you know, Ode to Art, the opening song. Fantastic opening track. It's so good. Immediately goes into I Can Never Die. That one's just boof. You know, I'm pretty sure I Can Never Die was a single. One thing I noticed about a lot of these albums, these FLESHGOD albums, but I think it's especially predominant on this one, is when the songs end, they just go straight into the other one. There's no real like gap in between to differentiate when the songs are. And I think that's to do with the whole vibe of opera. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've never actually seen an opera from start to finish, but I imagine that's like the classical side of how they go. Do you know what I mean? They just stop and start one piece into another. So that's the kind of vibe I get what they're doing with this album. Blood Clock is amazing. At War With My Soul is insane. That one's awesome. The Morphine Waltz, that's just great. Matricide 821, which is just awesome. That one's an onslaught. But like Till Death Do Us Part, the beautiful, like, slower female addition to do the actual like operatic half of it. It was just insane. Like, seriously, come on, you can't knock that stuff. And then Opera, the beautiful title track of just like this instrumental piano piece. It really makes you almost want to appreciate the classical side a lot more and just be like, what would FLESHGOD sound like without the FLESHGOD? And you know, I'm sure there's non-FLESHGOD versions of these albums out there, but still, Per Aspera ad Astra, that song is just insane. It's like I call it the epic, because it's just, there's so much going on in that song. It's honestly so good. I can't recommend this album enough. If you haven't jumped on it yet, I highly recommend you do. Number 2, number 2, Opera. Which means, number 1, for me, personally, the best FLESHGOD Apocalypse album is one that I actually didn't expect. I thought this album was going to be boring just by looking at it, but it's not. Number 1 is King. Makes sense. King on top, you know? Absolutely. The King, again, this is a sort of loose concept album. This one came out in 2016. The King in this album represents the brave parts of ourselves. This one, the one we should cultivate to become strong and rise again from this dark age. He's the only positive figure in this story. A man who has integrity and love for the values and truth that we all should hope for ourselves. All the other characters in the court represent the fears that can lead us to make everything worse. They try to affect the king's decisions for their own advantage and hope for a loss of power, regardless of the suffering they're going to create for their own world and people. As we already said, we represented King to our fans. We should all hail the King who lives inside every one of us. Pretty damn bold statement, I won't lie, but good God, aside from the bold statement, this album is just perfect. Like I said, I did not expect this album to go as hard as it did, but my God, did it go hard. Marche Royale, the Royal March, I assume in Italian, just this beautiful, beautiful intro piece, fantastic. In Eternum, just another onslaught of typical FLESHGOD, we love it. And a bit like Opera, this one breaks up as well. Like, no two songs sound the same. You can differentiate which is which. Healing Through War, fantastic. What I love about that song is like, there's just weird, this one's like incredibly, you could say, classic, well, they're all classical inspired, but like there's nods taken from classical pieces and stuff thrown in, which make it that damn good. Like for example, and what else makes this one awesome as well is songs like Cold is Perfection, which has like this spoken word part going over it, which just makes it sound so much more evil. And I think Cold is Perfection is a bit it's a bit slower too, you know, so again breaks it up. Paramore, fantastic. D Legend started Bridget Leiden. I'm pretty sure that's the operatic song, you know, the one of the female just going absolutely hard. That one's glorious. And The Vulture Beholds, fantastic. Gravity, A Million Deaths, Syphilis is an epic song. It's like the epic. It's the Ancient Mariner of this album. It's so good. It's all going at once, and it's just fantastic. You know, this album is just great. If you only want to listen to one FLESHGOD album because that's all you want to hear, I would highly recommend you go listen to King right now. It will blow you away. It'll make you feel. It will slow you down. It will speed you up. It's a world of emotions, this album. I could not recommend it enough. I'm so glad I got through the entire catalog to find this awesome album. I'm shocked that there's a better album than Agony, I won't lie. This is just great. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to King. Number one for me, the best FLESHGOD Apocalypse album, King from 2016. Awesome as team. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I sit here and get increasingly more passionate about FLESHGOD Apocalypse albums. Like I said at the start, let me know down below what your favorite album is. Is it King like myself? Is it Agony? Is it the debut? Let's get the conversation going so we can all have a bit of fun. Keep an eye out for the next ranking. I'm going to stay on the death metal vibe for a little while. I know who I've got next. Shouldn't take too long now, but yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'm excited to get back into rankings because it's been ages since I do them, and yeah, talking about it is so much fun. So yeah, like I said at the start, comment on all that, subscribe, do all the fun YouTube stuff. Keep an eye out for the next video. Don't know when it will be, but it will be soon. But until that happens, everybody, stay inside, stay safe, jam FLESHGOD Apocalypse, and I will see you all in the next video. See you later.